What's going on, guys? Hey, yo, it's Adrian. Welcome into the show. Yeah, so I wanted to go over college quarterbacks a little bit. It's this last week was the halfway mark in the college football season, so I figured let's go over the top 10 guys I think are going to be like draft eligible in this draft right now. I'll have a couple extra guys at the end too, but yeah, it's definitely it's definitely too early to say who's going to even be in the draft. So, you know, these are definitely subject to change, but for now this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get right into it. The first two are going to be exactly what you expect. So if you already know or don't care who these are going to be, then you can really skip the first two. But number one consensus guy on everyone's draft board, Caleb Williams out of USC, the junior. Uh, USC's 6-0 right now. Caleb Williams looks really good in Lincoln Riley's offense. As a Trojan, he's been just nasty. Last year, he had 4,537 yards, 42 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions. And then on the ground, he added 382 yards and 10 touchdowns. That was last year. This year, he's on pace to do even better, I think. So far, he's got a little over 1,800 yards, 22 touchdowns, only one pick, and then he added 124 yards on the ground and 6 touchdowns on the ground already. Granted, this wasn't against like anyone huge so far. They played like Colorado and Arizona. There's a couple close games right there, just because USC's defense is a little rough, unfortunately, but they do have quite a few big games still to go. They got Notre Dame, Utah, Washington, Oregon, UCLA. We'll see if they can get through that unscathed, but this is about Caleb Williams, and he's looked nasty in like every game so far. He looks like he has it all, really. Heisman winner from last year. He's really got it all. He's got an elite arm. He can make plays with his feet. He is deadly accurate. Big play machine. A leader in the pocket for his team when they need him, especially in the close games. He's been such a leader. The only real like weaknesses that I could come up with really are he's a bit of a smaller stature guy, so like maybe some teams will be upset with that. I think more teams in the NFL like don't care about that too much anymore though, since like Drew Brees, Kyler, Bryce Young, like there's a lot of guys that have been drafted high that have a smaller stature, so I think he'll be fine. But then the offense is kind of different. It's a shotgun style offense. I think he's back in the shotgun like damn near 99% of the time, which, that'll take a bit of a transition to the NFL level. But yeah, Caleb Williams is really good. He most likely will be the first player off the board in the draft next year. That is if he comes out. With the with NIL deals now, players don't necessarily have to come out. Like they're not going to come out for money. They're going to come out because they want to play in the NFL because that's their dream or whatever. But for guys like Caleb Williams, he's a junior with eligibility still remaining. He doesn't necessarily have to go to the NFL level next year if he doesn't want to. He came out to say, it was either him or his dad, maybe both of them, but they came out and said, like, if a team that we don't like has the number one pick, we're just going to stay at USC, which I think makes sense. Just kill it for another year under Lincoln Riley. I could see it happening for sure. But ultimately, I think Caleb Williams is going to end up coming out and being the first overall pick. And I think I don't know, we'll see what he can do in the NFL, but he's just so talented. It'd be surprising if he failed. Him coming out also is possibly a little tied to Lincoln Riley. The NFL has been trying to take him away from college football for a while now. So maybe he'll be like, hey, I got another guy going to the NFL, top pick. He had other guys like Kyler, Baker, some other guys in there, Jalen Hurts, I believe. Am I talking about the right guy? I think I am. Yeah. Um, so he honestly he might be like, hey, I coached up another quarterback to be the number one pick. Like, let me just go to the NFL and see if I can transition. Granted, he's relatively new to USC, so he might not be doing that, but I could see it happen. I could see it happening. Um, Number two, like I said, it's kind of the obvious pick here, Drake May out of UNC. He's only a sophomore technically, but He's on every NFL team's radar right now just because of the pure talent. So I'd be surprised if Drake May didn't come out because he's going to be a top pick as of right now in the NFL. And he's on a pretty good Tar Heel team right now. They're 5-0. Last year, he had great stats: 4,321 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. And then on the ground, he's a runner: 698 yards and 7 touchdowns. This year has been a little rough. They lost some guys, so he's had to deal with a bit of a difficult time. But I mean, that's going to be the NFL too, right? He's going to have very similar competition for the most part. Maybe worse because generally bad teams draft quarterbacks at the top, right? But this year he has so far 1,629 yards, 8 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, 174 yards rushing with 4 touchdowns on the ground. Um, they haven't really played too many good teams either, which makes that stat look even worse. Like they played South Carolina and they took App State to overtime, which honestly isn't a great look for UNC. But and Drake May hasn't exactly looked great, but he's just so talented. They still have Miami, Duke, and Clemson on the schedule, so those are a couple better teams that we'll really see if Drake May's ready for the NFL. But either way, he's going to be a top pick. He has a great arm. He like automatically being drafted, he's going to have one of the better arms, and he's a straight up athlete. UNC just likes their athletic quarterbacks, right? His weaknesses, though, are kind of tough. Like his decision making definitely needs to improve. That's probably the biggest thing because he's throwing too many bad. He's making too many bad decisions basically right now for this team, and the NFL will only be harder with a faster defenses and smarter defenses, more athletic defenses. So yeah, he's got stuff to work on, but he's definitely the number 2 quarterback in this draft class right now, but I don't see anyone like overtopping him. He's just very talented. After him is kind of where you can go with quite a few guys. I am going to go with Shador Sanders. He has looked amazing this year so far. He's a junior at Colorado, for a team that a lot of people didn't think was going to be good this year, and they didn't know if Shea Sanders was going to come out of Jackson State and be able to play against these better division defenses. So he's looked really good though for the Buffaloes so far. Last year for Jackson State, he had 3,732 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, 173 yards on the ground, and 6 touchdowns rushing. He was really good on that team, and then he came to Colorado and has been even better against better teams, which is crazy. He's already got 2,020 yards throwing, which leads the entire NCAA. 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. On the ground, he hasn't been able to do anything. He's got negative yards rushing. He still has 3 touchdowns though, which is kind of funny. But yeah, this team is still like missing talent to play the big dogs too, which makes it even more impressive that he's doing this. Like they beat TCU, they played Oregon, got slammed, played USC. But honestly, he looked good against these teams. It's just the team Colorado got crushed because they just couldn't compete with the level of talent. But Shea Sanders is a beast all of those games. They still got UCLA, Oregon State, Washington State, and Utah. This guy, he just looks like no stage is too big for this guy. He is a star power, like just waiting to be unleashed in the NFL. And I think he's going to be a big presence when he does decide to come out. We're not sure if that's going to be this year or not. But like his strengths, like he just makes big plays. He creates them. He's always getting big plays. He's an athlete. He's got a strong arm. He's a good leader on this team. He knows how to get guys to basically just play their hardest for him. His decision making is on point, and he's Deion's kid, and everybody knows Deion was a beast. So he's got those genes in him. His weaknesses, he does have a weird release that hopefully coaches don't really try to change because it's working for him, but it is weird. And Personally, I think he's got a little immaturity issues, but I mean, he's Dion's kid, so he's just a flashy kid, you know. He uh he likes style, he likes to show himself off. He's flashy. It's not for me, but it's not going to affect his game on the field either, you know what I'm saying? Um if he does decide to come out, I think a lot of I think a lot of these guys are going to be like waiting to see if Caleb Williams is coming out or not, to be honest. Shea Sanders might not care either way. I could see him coming out. I think him and Dion said like if the Falcons have a high pick, they're coming out possibly because they really want to be on the Falcons in Atlanta. That's their place, you know, that's their home. But personally, I don't think he's going to come out. I think Sanders and Dion, I think they're gonna I think they're gonna run it back with Colorado. I think they're gonna want to add more talent and give one more shot at just tearing people down and making Colorado the place to be. But he could come out. You never know. You never know. I don't think he's going to be in this one. After him, I went with J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. He was kind of a hard one to pick. He's a junior. He's younger. I think he's only 20 maybe. But Michigan's doing really good right now. They're 6-0 with Jim Harbaugh. Last year, he took lead of that offense and won the starting gig like pretty early on in the season. He had 2,719 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, 306 yards rushing with 5 rushing touchdowns as well. This year, he's on pace to be very good as well. 1,290 yards so far with 11 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And then he added 133 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing as well. The only thing with Michigan is, like everybody's talking about it, their schedule is a cakewalk, and it makes it so hard to evaluate this team and this quarterback right now. They're winning, though. They're winning by wide margins, and J.J. McCarthy's looking very good. It's just, like, we really would like to see him against a much better defense, you know what I mean? They haven't had any challenges yet so far. On the clock, they still got Penn State and Ohio State, so I'm circling those in the calendar to see what this kid can do against a better defense and a better team in general. But he looks really good. He's got a good arm. He's a runner. He's young, like I said. He makes clutch plays when he needs to. The downsides about JJ McCarthy though, he doesn't have a lot of experience. You know, he won the starting gig last year, like kind of early in the season, but that's not a lot of experience right now if he did decide to come out. And Michigan is kind of a running offense, so he kind of plays a bit of second fiddle to a running game in this on this team. So that definitely affects what teams are going to think of him. Like, can we trust this guy? I really like JJ McCarthy though. I think I think he's going to show that he's a very good quarterback against Penn State and Ohio State. And I didn't really know. I think one of these guys after Williams in May, I think one of the juniors or sophomores are going to come out, and I think JJ McCarthy has a very good shot of being that guy. He could definitely come back. He's still young. He's only 20. So he could definitely come back, but honestly, I could see Michigan just kind of blowing it up. I could see Jim Harbaugh. He's on end of the contract. I could see him just leaving for an NFL gig after the year, and I could see JJ McCarthy being like, "Hey, I don't know who my coach is going to be. I don't know what the turnover is going to be like. I'm already pushing for a round one pick right now. Might as well just leave now before something crazy maybe happens with Michigan." On the flip side, I could also see Michigan getting towards the end and like maybe not making the playoffs, and then Harbaugh and JJ McCarthy are like, "Hey, let's run it back and try to make it again." So you don't know until the end of the year what these guys are going to do, but for right now, halfway through the season, I'm saying JJ McCarthy is going to be a first round pick in this draft. After him, I got Quinn Ewers from Texas. He's a sophomore only, which is kind of surprising. I thought he was like a junior, but yeah, he's only a sophomore on a good Texas team. They're 5-1. The Longhorns last year with Quinn Ewers, he had 2,177 yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 picks, negative yards rushing with 1 touchdown. He was not running the ball. This year he's been mostly good. He had a bit of a rough game in against Oklahoma, but so far he's had 1,704 yards, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I think they might have all been in Oklahoma, to be honest. 60 yards on the ground, 5 touchdowns rushing so far. So he's a really talented kid. They played Bama, he won. Kansas, he won. Oklahoma, he lost. Didn't look too hot. They still got BYU, TCU, and Texas Tech on the schedule, which they will be favored in all 3 of those games. So he should be able to finish out strong, I would think. You know, Ewers has a great arm. Like, he'll already have an NFL arm getting drafted. And he makes really nice sidearm throws. Like, think of like Phillip Rivers, Pat Mahomes. It's the sidearm throws. You can see it in the picture. He's got that slinging sidearm. It's really pretty to see. His weaknesses though, his decision making is sometimes just off. He like in that Oklahoma game with a really good defense pushing him, he just was making bad decisions, which is not what you like to see. That's how people become busts. But he also is a bit on the inexperienced side. He didn't start all the games last year, and this year he has started all the games this year, but like we're only halfway through the season, basically, is what I'm saying. Like he could use a little more experience, but he's definitely going to be pushing for and most likely be a first round pick if he does come out, depending on how the season goes, of course. But I think Quinn Ewers is definitely going to contemplate coming out, especially with Arch Manning waiting in the wings behind him. He's got no guarantee of being the Texas starting quarterback next year if he does return. But I don't know. Like I said, a lot's going to depend on like Caleb Williams and some of the other quarterbacks' decisions because there's a lot of first round capable guys that could come out in this draft. Quinn Ewers being one of them. So as of right now, I'm going to say he doesn't come out, but I could definitely see it. I honestly think he's going to like return to Texas and then people are probably going to think I'm a little crazy. I think he's going to transfer to one of the teams that are like losing a quarterback, like maybe USC would want him. I know some of these teams have guys waiting in the wings, so like Quinn Ewers, maybe you don't even want him, but he's a very talented guy. Like, would he want to go to USC? Would he want to go to someplace like Alabama if they can't get their quarterback situation figured out? Like, I think they would want him. I think Quinn Ewers would want to go there. So I don't know. There's options. There's options for sure. He could definitely come out though. He was a guy. I was either gonna have him or JJ McCarthy as my guess of who came out. I went with JJ McCarthy just because I think Jim Harbaugh is gonna be gone, and I think JJ is gonna follow him. But Quinn Ewers definitely could come out too. But for now, halfway through the season, I'm gonna say he doesn't. At 6, I got Bo Nix. He's looked really good for Oregon since he transferred there. They're 5-0 right now. This is a really good Ducks team that I am excited to see Bo Nix where he can take them. Last year, he like did really good. 3,593 yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 picks, 510 yards on the ground with 14 rushing touchdowns. And this year, he's on pace for a really good season again. 1,459 yards, 15 touchdowns, only 1 pick. He's taking care of the ball, 87 yards rushing, and 1 touchdown on the ground as well. They haven't had too many like challenges so far this year, which I guess you can kind of take against them for the moment. They played Texas Tech and Colorado in a couple games against like decent teams. They crushed Colorado, and I think they beat Texas Tech pretty well as well. They still got Washington this week, actually. Watch that one. That's going to be a fun one. They got Washington State, Utah, USC, and Oregon State. So we'll really see what Bo Nix can do. It's his senior year, so I think he's going to be putting on a show no matter what. He's got a solid arm, not like amazing, but solid. He can make all the throws you're going to need him to. He can run. He's accurate. His decision making is much improved since he's been going through the years. And he knows how to read the defense. He just looks really good out there to me. The only real weaknesses for Bo Nix that I see really. He's a little older because he's a senior. He's been around for a little bit. And, he previously struggled a little bit before he got to Oregon. So some teams might see that and be like, hey, maybe it's just maybe he's just good with this Oregon offense. Maybe like if we draft him, he's gonna revert back to where he was. It's something to think about. Maybe some teams won't be on this guy because of something like that. I think being a senior, he's going to be in the draft, and after Caleb Williams and Drake May, Bo Nix will be fighting for that third quarterback spot. And that's even like we're not entirely sure if Williams and May are going to even be coming out. So Bo Nix is definitely going to be in the discussion for round one quarterback consideration. And I'm pretty pumped to see where he could go. I like this quarterback. I like him. I think he has a cool name too, Bo Nix. I love it. Can't wait to see him in an NFL jersey. After Bo, we got Michael Penix Jr., senior from Washington. He's looking pretty freaking good this year. Washington's 5-0. Huskies. Last year, he was good. 4,641 yards, 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 92 yards on the ground, 4 touchdowns rushing. This year, he's showing why people need to take him seriously, even though he has a checkered past. This year, he has just under 2,000 yards passing, 16 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Not doing anything on the ground. That's fine. He's a pocket quarterback, old school style. There's still teams that like that, so that's fine. It's definitely going to throw off some teams, but this year so far, the thing is they haven't faced too many like teams that they pretty much should have won all of the games. He should be doing this good because like the hardest teams they faced were Cal and Zona. Like they aren't that good. Like they're not terrible, but they're not that good. They're not like ranked teams. This week, like I said, they're playing Oregon. That's going to be a real fun game. I want to watch it. Bo Nix and Penix are going to be fun to watch. They still got USC, Utah, Oregon State, and Washington on the schedule. So he's got some stuff to do. We'll see if he can do it. I like this guy. He's pretty accurate. He's smart with the ball. He's got a solid arm. He's a lefty. The only lefty in the league that I'm aware of is Tua, so that would make another lefty in the league. That's exciting. But he does have some weaknesses. He's older, like Bo Nix, senior. He's been around for a while. Why is he older, though? Because of his injury history. He has had a season-ending injury like every year, pretty much. So he has very serious injury concerns, which could push him out of the first round, especially if some of those other guys are coming out against him. Because right now, Caleb Williams and Drake May most likely are coming out. They're both going to be ahead of him. I think Bo Nix is going to be ahead of him. So that right there already makes him the fourth quarterback. Will 4 quarterbacks be selected in the first round? Maybe. Not sure. But that's without Quinn Ewers, J.J. McCarthy, and Shea Sanders. Not even mentioned. So he definitely could get pushed out of the first round, especially because of his injury history. He's going to get drafted, though. He's way too talented to not get drafted. I think he's going to be probably third round at the latest, unless something crazy happens. And he can run a little bit if he needs to. He just doesn't like to. So, yeah, Michael Penix Jr. at 7th spot on my list. That's pretty much where my first round caliber guys ends with the top 7 guys here that I mentioned. But I do have a top 10. So at 8, I got Riley Leonard, the junior out of Duke. Yeah, he looks pretty talented. He looks kind of like, this guy could be a first round talent. I just don't think if he comes out this year, he's going to be, especially with all the guys ahead of him on the list, which is why I don't think he's going to come out this year unless he goes on some kind of crazy tear to end the season. But he's also injured right now, so I don't think that's happening. But last year, I think his first year starting. I could be wrong about that. I didn't check. I didn't delve too deep into this guy's past. But last year, 2,967 yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 699 yards on the ground, 13 touchdowns. He's kind of like a better Daniel Jones from everything I'm hearing, which makes me sad as a Giants fan. But this year, he's been solid. He hasn't really had to do much. 912 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. 326 yards on the ground with 4 touchdowns rushing. He's really a rushing quarterback. Exciting player. Duke's 4-1 with him right now. Um, the only big game they've really played so far is Notre Dame, and they took a fat L in that one. But I don't know. I think he's looked pretty decent. No, just nothing crazy. He's not putting up round one numbers right now, which is 100% why I think he's going to come back and try to be a top pick next year. But they still got Florida State, Louisville, and UNC on their schedule. So he has time to assert himself as a first round pick. I don't think he's going to do it, but he does have a good arm. He's very athletic. He's been smart with the ball. His problems are he's very inexperienced, and he seems to have kind of trouble reading defenses from my perspective. So yeah, I think for him and for Duke and for I just don't see him coming out. I think he's going back to school for sure next year, as of right now. So that's Riley Leonard at 8. At 9, I got Jaden Daniels. I don't hear a lot of guys talking about this guy, but he looks really good. The senior out of LSU. Um, LSU's not like amazing. They're 4-2 right now, but they're a very talented squad that can, I think, take on pretty much any team in the NCAA right now. With Brian Kelly as the coach, Brian Kelly looks really good. NFL teams are trying to get Brian Kelly to leave too. Don't think he's going to be leaving anytime soon. He just got to LSU, I think, didn't he? Or did he last year? It might have been last year, but yeah, Brian Kelly's got Jaden Daniels going, and I think Jaden Daniels, he's a senior, so I mean he doesn't have a choice in the matter, but I think he could push for a first round pick, but there's probably going to be too many quarterbacks ahead of him with talent, and he's probably going to get pushed out. He's probably going to end up being like a third, maybe fourth round pick, but I think he could end up being one of those guys that like gets into the league, sits for a little bit, and then like when he gets his shot, people are like, "Wow, this guy's good," and then like somebody gives him a chance as a starting quarterback. I think this could be the type of guy that does that. Last year, 2,913 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. And on the ground, he had 885 yards and 11 touchdowns. He's quick, too. This year so far, he's looked dang good. 1,969 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And he's added 422 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground as well. Against big games, they have not been winning, unfortunately, but I don't think it's been Jaden Daniels' fault. They lost to Notre Dame. Um, Wait, no. Sorry. They lost to Florida State. They beat Arkansas, which isn't super impressive. Arkansas has been like, eh. And then they lost to Ole Miss in a couple games. They still got Alabama. They still got Florida. They still got A&M on the schedule. So we'll see if he can keep it up. But I am like infatuated with this guy right now, to be honest. He's so quick and fun to watch. He's got a good arm. He seems to have really good decision making skills. He's a leader for this LSU team. The weaknesses for him, I guess he's got like a throwing motion that they might want to try to fix. Whatever. His accuracy can be off at times, which definitely hurts. He's older. He's a senior, and he definitely needs to put on weight. I think you can probably tell in the picture, but he's just rail thin. He's so skinny. He needs to put on some weight for the NFL to take big shots for sure. Otherwise, he's gonna just be an injury prone guy. But this is a guy that I think is gonna be a somewhat later round pick that really shows out when he gets a shot, and I am pumped to see him in the NFL, to see him in the preseason, to see where he gets drafted. At 10, I got Spencer Rattler. He's a senior. He'll be in the draft. South Carolina. This guy is very talented, but he just has not been able to put it together in a long NCAA career. You know, him and Sam Howell were supposed to be the guys a couple years ago. They were the number one overall picks in the Kenny Pickett draft. And then Rattler looked awful. Sam Howell looked bad. Rattler didn't even come out. Sam Howell still came out, but he dropped to the 5th round, and that was the year that Kenny Pickett had a monster year for Pittsburgh. No one was talking about him. Then all of a sudden, he was a first-round pick just because he was the safe pick, you know. But anyway, Rattler, he's just an uber talented guy. He looks kind of funny to me, but uber talented. Last year, his stats were like good but not good. 3,000 yards, 3,026 yards rather. 18 touchdowns, but he did throw 12 interceptions, 3 touchdowns rushing. This year has looked pretty much the same. Excuse me. Pretty much the same as like his career. 1,411 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 picks so far, 2 touchdowns on the ground. He's played UNC, Georgia, and Tennessee. Took L's in all 3 games, and he did not look great in all of those games either. They still got Florida, Mizzou, A&M, and Kentucky on the schedule, so I don't know. He's definitely not going to be a first-round pick unless like something crazy happens. Even then, I think he's got too much tape for someone to pick him in the first round, especially with the talent in this draft. But he has a really big arm. He's got the size. He's on the run. He's really good. He can throw on the run. He's pretty accurate. But he is smaller, which already affects some. Wait, why did I say he's smaller? I don't think he's smaller. I think I put that on the wrong one. Sorry. But he makes bad decisions. That's like his worst trait. He just makes bad decisions, man. His vision needs some help. He's an older guy. Like, the bad decisions are going to crush him, though. He's going to get drafted. He'll probably be like a 4th-round pick or something. But he really just needs a coach and an offense that really helps him out with his to help with his decision making, because he has it all. He could be one of the better quarterbacks in the league, but just his decision making is god awful sometimes. That's why he throws so many picks. Yeah, so he'll be in the draft, but yikes. Some guys that just missed the cut here. Joe Milton for Tennessee. He's a senior. He's going to be in the draft. Big guy, fast. I like him. He is not first round talent though. He could be a fun guy that like gets the ball here and there. He could be like the Saints Taysom Hill type guy that gets the ball and runs and stuff. He's just a huge dude that can make plays. KJ Jefferson for Arkansas. I don't know about him, honestly. Like, he's talented, but woof. Jordan Travis, Florida State. I just don't think, like, he's smart with the ball, but I don't think he's got the talent to be much other than a backup in the NFL. Cam Ward Jr., he probably isn't going to come out, but he's very talented. Gets Washington State rather, to wins that they might not have had without him. And then Tyler Van Dyke, another junior for Miami. He's not going to come out. I'd be surprised. Very talented guy, makes horrible decisions. He was in. They talk about Tyler Van Dyke with Anthony Richardson. They were like in the same mold, but Richardson came out last year and was a first-round pick. So maybe Tyler Van Dyke will see that and be like, "Hey, maybe I can do it." But like, this isn't the draft for that, so I don't think he's coming out. I'd be shocked. But yeah, that concludes all the quarterbacks that I want to talk about. If you're a Sam Hartman fan, sorry, I don't think he's going to be an NFL caliber guy. And any other seniors, really. Dylan Gabriel, maybe. But like guys like that, I don't know. Unfortunately, we don't have any West Virginia quarterbacks in here. Garrett Green, I like the guy, but maybe next year, right? But yeah, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you agree with. If you have any other quarterbacks you wanted to talk about, or if you disagreed, very much so, with any of these names. It'll be fun to see near the end. I'm going to make another video like this at the end of the college year, and I'll have a better idea of where these quarterbacks are going to be. If I'll probably have like 2 or 3 of them not on the list anymore, maybe 4 or 5 if they say they're coming back already. But it'll be fun, so stick around. Let me know. Until then, peace out, gang.